So Greedon's theme is the 7 deadly sins, right? But on the last Bushiroad stream, they only revealed 4 sins so far. So where are the rest of the sins? Well, today they got revealed and they're pretty spicy. Hi guys and welcome to the circus. So today we're going to be covering the 3 other cards that are supports for Magnus. So today we're going to be covering the 3 additional supports for Greedon. So since we're missing 3 sins out of the 7 deadly sins, we now have these 3 in the form of Inkeen, Mucha, and Yabba. We're going to start with Desire Devil Inkeen. So first let's talk about the artwork. So it's a licky tongue. I don't know. So it's this flying reptile looking creature or demon, and that's a pretty long tongue. I forgot to give compliments to the first few artworks of this archetype. The other 3 supports beside from Greedon looks absolutely amazing. This one doesn't disappoint, it looks scary, and that's what they intended it to be, right? So now let's take a look at the skills. So when placed on rearguard circle, if you persona row this turn, soul charge 1. And then another auto skill, which is when put into your soul from rearguard circle by your Vanguard's ability, cost counterblast 2, choose one of your Vanguard and it gets plus 5k and plus 1 drive until the end of the turn. That's actually a pretty interesting skill. So far, Greedon doesn't really use CB. He only costs 2 soul and that's about it. He also wipes your own board, but at least you want to wipe your own board with that skill. This costs 2 CB, so it's pretty heavy, but it gives you an additional drive and a 5k, which is a form of plus. I can see this card being played definitely because of the plus 1 drive alone. I don't know if how many copies you want to run with this card or how often you're gonna use this skill, because it does cost 2 counterblast, which is sometimes a bit heavy, but your max damage is 7, so you can have 6 face-up counterblast, so possibly you can use this like 3 times in the whole game. That additional 1 damage that Greedon gives you is actually quite helpful to keep using this card skill. I will play test with this a lot, so look forward to some more details I guess in the next coming videos. Another note is that this second skill is a generic skill, meaning it can work with Magnus once again, because it doesn't say it's restricted via the name of Greedon or any kind of name at all. If this card is put into soul using Magnus' skill, you just CB2 and then your Magnus gets another drive. But again, it costs 2 CB, which is a bit heavy because you do use CB for your Vanguard, so that's like 3 CBs in a row. But at the very least, Magnus has more counter charge than Greedon. And yeah, I think that's about it for Inkeen. So now let's move on to the next unit, which is Desire Devil Mucha. I keep getting vibes of Pokemon and Digimon around these cards. It's weird that I find them to be more adorable than being a scary unit. I don't know, it looks kind of cute. Not gonna lie. So let's move on to the skill, which is auto when placed on rearguard circle from hand. If your Vanguard is Avaricious Demonic Dragon Greedon, cost Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 2. That's quite heavy. Choose a card from your soul and call it to rearguard circle. That is actually not bad, but again, the cost is really heavy. Along with Inkeen, these 2 are probably the heaviest costed units in the format so far. Well, Curtis is a Counterblast 2 and Bruce is a Soul Blast 5, but compared to the value that they bring, Mucha and Inkeen seems to be a little bit overcosted, at least as far as I know. The Counterblast one isn't really that much of an issue so far, but the Soul Blast 2 is quite heavy. But again, you plus out of this card when placing it from hand, so I think that's like a way to prevent power creep or something. But after you use this skill, you will most likely put those units that you called from this unit back to the soul using Greedon, so I don't know, man. The other skill is auto on rearguard circle when your Vanguard attacks. If you persona row this turn, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. This signals that Mucha is the unit that you want to stay on the board when you use your Greedon skill. Because overall, if you persona row that turn, your Vanguard will overall get an additional plus 10k for the turn. If you have multiple copies of this on the board, it stacks. So at least that's something, but it is locked behind Persona Ride. So it also signals that you need Persona Ride in the deck. But based on my few playtestings yesterday, the Persona Ride in this deck isn't really needed because Greedon is a one-man show to an extent. Because of a bunch of Boshokus in your soul, your Vanguard already has a lot of power. Greedon already gives himself a lot of power as well, but at the very least, the additional 10k can be quite clutch sometimes. So far, if you have Mucha along with Boshoku, your Vanguard will always have a ton of power on his own, and also possibly get over the 50k shield that the Overtrigger provides. So next, let's move on to the last revealed unit, which is The Last Sin, named Desire Devil Yabba. When talking about this card's artwork, this is probably my favorite one so far. Because look at him, it's so cool. He's so dynamic. I'm really digging these aesthetics, so I'm really glad that they made it into something like this. So now let's talk about the skill, which is Act in Soul. If your Vanguard is Avaricious Demonic Dragon Greedon, put this card into your drop zone, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. Personally, I think this skill is not that needed because you already have a ton of power for Greedon. And Soul Blasting this card and not refunding it, unlike what Expeller does, is not that good. Because remember, this is a Dark States deck, so it needs Soul, definitely. At least 10 consistently. But you know, if you have spare copies of these, it's a good card to bump up your Vanguard even more. But so far as my initial thoughts towards this card, this skill isn't really needed. Too bad, I like this artwork the most, but sadly I don't see myself running a full playset of this card. I think I'd much rather have Expeller for that slot. So yeah, those were all the 3 additional sins to complete the 7 deadly sins for Greedon. So far these cards are quite interesting. Of course, I'll be playtesting with these cards. If you want to hear more about my thoughts towards this archetype, you can head over to our Discord and then you can maybe read some of my thoughts towards there, because sometimes I put out my current deck list that I've been trying and ask for some advice from my fellow Dark States mains over there. So far, what I like the most out of these 3 additional supports is Inkeen, because the additional drive plus the 5k is really good. But again, it's a bit overcosted, which is a CB2. But it's a plus in a form of a drive check, so I think it's pretty balanced because Greedon doesn't use CB at all. Mucha is a good card to plus on your board, but the Soul Blast 2 kinda hurts a bit because this is still a Dark States deck, so you still need Soul, preferably at least 10 consistently. Yabba is my favorite art, but sadly I don't see myself running this that much because I think Expeller is better. And yeah, I think that's about it for the whole Greedon archetype in set 3. So again, if you guys have some suggestions, have some recommendations, or have some questions, just leave it down in the comments below so that everybody else can read them as well and probably have a response from other people besides from me. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Together, let us raise the flag of Dark States, and I'll see you guys next time.